Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Salam Media. I'm your host, Thaakir Dawood, and it is 7 o'clock on the dot. It's time for your favorite sports show every bi weekly on a Friday evening. I'll be keeping you company right until 8 o'clock. It's been an interesting week in sport. We've got the Proteas that are down in New Zealand. They're currently trailing by 353 runs at the end of what are we, day two? So it's going to be quite interesting to see how things unfold there. Can South Africa bounce back, or is this just them throwing in the towel and calling it today? We've got the Winter Olympics that's currently underway in Beijing. It's coming to the end in 2 days, and Norway is leading the tally with 15 gold medals, 8 silver, and 11 bronze medals. In total, they do have a 34. South Africa is yet to medal at this event, but it is the Winter Olympics, not our strong point exactly. And then in some other news, we're changing it up a bit to the oval shaped ball. We've got the Varsity Cup that kicked off. We've got the Curry Cup that's underway. URC takes a bit of a break this weekend, but it's still all things sports. Interesting rugby underway. We're going to be chatting later to Riaz Fredericks. He is the UCT winger who participated in this past Monday's match, where he scored a try and he assisted one, where he guided his team to a memorable victory at the final today. Sportscans in Potchefstroom. UCT done it again in Potch. But right now, we could talk about that. We're going to change it a bit over to the round shape ball. Well, not the ball exactly, but we're going to be chatting to the man in the middle with the whistle. This evening, I've got a 3-time AFCON referee. He's refereed at the Tokyo Olympics and at the FIFA Under-17 World Cup. He shared a pitch with Mo Salah and Sadio Mane at the same time. Many Englishmen would love to do that. But unfortunately, Liverpool can only have so many strikers. Victor Gomes, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Really, really appreciate it.
Very good evening. Salam alaikum. I hope that
looks like we just had a break in signal there, but it's time. I think, Victor, your time in Senegal obviously helped you, and Cameroon obviously helped you a bit with the Arabic. Your assalamu alaikum coming out a bit easy off the tongue, eh?
Yeah, I'm getting quite used to the Arabic. It's salam alaikum, kayfaral, alhamdulillah. So I'm getting there.
Well, you're not too far off. Very soon you could be my co-host. I mean, who knows?
And inshallah.
I mean, Victor, looking at it, the year's just started. You've had a phenomenal year. For a referee of your caliber, you should be used to all of this by now. But what did it mean to you refereeing in a CAF final? In an AFCON final,
it's to referee the highest match on your continent. It's a huge privilege and a huge honor, and I'm thankful to SAFA for giving me the privilege of representing South Africa, SAFA, and I'm thankful to CAF for allowing me to represent the continent and for entrusting me on such a huge match. And it's an honor and privilege.
You've spent a lot of time on the pitch. You've shared a pitch with many characters. But this tournament, all in all, what are some of your takeaways when you sit back and realize that, wow, I actually done this?
Yeah, it brings me to the thought that I sometimes check my passport and I say to myself, geez, I've traveled to places that I would have never traveled if it was not for football. And obviously getting to be on the field with so many top players and officials, it's an absolute pleasure, really. I couldn't have asked for more. It's really a blessing.
Victor, we're talking about AFCON, and through the build-up of the tournament, were you noted at the beginning of the tournament? Or were you picked as one of the referees that would have reffed the final?
Sorry, we have some bad weather here, so I lost you there. If you could just repeat the question, I'd be happy. Sorry, man.
No problem. It is Joburg after all. Ask the question where during the tournament, were you ever notified or pipped by any of the officials that you would officiate the final?
Okay, I think the weather is still playing up tricks, but I think you said something about the Joburg weather, and that's all that I heard. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, let's try this again. Third time lucky. I was asking you, as you officiated throughout the tournament, was there any moment in time where you were notified or pipped by any of the officials that you would be officiating the final?
Yeah, so I'll just take you through a rundown of how we get appointed. Our training is specific to match day. So we always talk about match day -2 and match day -1 and match preparation. So when you start getting to that type of when that time of the tournament gets around, some of the referees go home, obviously. So if their country's still inside, that means, so if South Africa was there, there would be a very good chance that I would be sent home. So as we start getting closer, on a Thursday already, we started seeing training, and I started seeing, okay, I'm in the group that's doing light work, and that's specific to match day preparation for the final already. And then on the Thursday night, on the Friday night, sorry, we were told that we would be on the final. And Saturday morning, we got the official notification where an email goes out to all to all the participants, the countries involved, and everyone that the list of officials, the referee, assistant referee, match commissioner, etc. So yeah, by Friday night we already knew.
Who was the first person you called when you actually got notified that you're going to be officiating the final?
Yeah, obviously it was my wife. I called my wife to tell her that I had finally gotten my final. So yeah, I wanted to share my happiness with her.
I mean, that's an exciting moment. But now it brings me down to the question that I'm sure many of the viewers and the listeners were waiting for. Sharing a pitch with Mo Salah, offering him the whistle. How exactly did that come about? I mean, what exactly happened there?
So yeah, I like to believe that football has evolved in the last 10 years, as I've said before in my previous press release. And refereeing also has to evolve. I mean, we cannot carry on refereeing the same style that we've been refereeing 10 years ago. And it's only unfortunate that the general public in general don't get to hear what goes on in the field and don't get to feel the temperature of the game and understand the pressures that go on in the field. And yeah, on that night, I chose to do something that I've done before previously as well. And I chose to manage a top class world player in a way that I deemed was respectful and in a way that I felt that was befitting of such a match. So I chose to use that management skill, and I think it was very effective, and it just so happened to capture many people's attention.
I mean, it captured certainly so many people's attention. And I think your way of managing, I mean, arguably two of the best players in the world. One of them got booked on the evening in likes of Sadio Mane. Victor, is it easy for referees to get caught up in the moment and in the heat of the game? How do you control yourself?
Yeah, I think it's very easy to get caught up in that moment. What's important is that we stay focused and we stay neutral. But there's one thing about me is that I'm very passionate about refereeing. I'm very passionate about football. And for me, nothing is really theatrics. For me, it just comes natural. For those who know me, my personality, I'm always joking and having fun. But when it's time for work, it's time for work. Time for play is time for play. But I just felt that was the right moment. It was a natural. It was just instinctive of just my reaction, and I was surprised. I really got the moment. And we always talk about in refereeing, there is a moment in a match, and sometimes you need to grab that moment. And when you grab that moment, that's when you have the game under control.
Well, I certainly hope you asked for your jersey after the game and asked for your signature, because I mean, I wonder if Jurgen Klopp could manage him like that. Well, we'll only have to find out in time.
You know, it's so funny that you mentioned it because I saw some rumors going around and some pundits saying that I took selfies with him. I would never do that. I respect players a lot, and I also respect myself as a top official. And I believe that that's something that we as officials should not be doing.
No, definitely. I mean, I have to agree with you on that. Victor, so now you spoke about managing the situation and how you've managed the players and the top class players. What was his reaction when you offered him the whistle and your cards?
You know, the picture says it all. There was a moment prior that I've never shared with anyone. I'll share it with you guys and your listeners. There was a moment prior. He was on my case, and there was a moment prior when I said to him, I saw him take on three players, and eventually he lost the ball. I said to him, "Hey, pass the ball," and he looked at me. I said to him, "You got to pass the ball," and he looked at me again, and I said, "You need to pass the ball." And he started laughing at me, and I said to him, "Oh, you don't like to be coached, so then don't coach me either." So it's a
And I
rapport
mean,
that you build.
mm,
It's a rapport you build with the players, and sometimes people always look at the negative, and I've said this before, and I'll continue to say this. It's about time that the general media and people in general, football lovers, we have a responsibility to report positively on football, so that the match, the game can grow. We have this adage of bringing the game down in certain aspects, whether it be in
mm.
Africa or whatever. We have a responsibility to report positively on football because ultimately we are all football lovers.
And I think that's a lot. I'm glad you brought that point up because I think that's where many people bring it wrong. Because yes, the closer you are to the sport, the more on the ground you are, the more you know of everything happening behind the scenes. But we need to remember that there's still that spectator at home, the fan aspect, that doesn't necessarily know everything that we know, but they have the love and the passion for the game. And we can't rub our negativity, or let's say our passion or drive, off on them in a negative way.
Yeah, sure. And the biggest problem that, as a referee, and not to be defensive, the biggest problem I have is when I watch a football match and I hear commentary that's not correct, or I hear comments on VAR, for example, that's not correct. It's misleading, and it's misleading because for lack of knowledge. So
Mm,
I'm really on a drive to try and educate as many people as possible. And look, to be honest, I'm happy to be criticized when I make an error of judgment. I'm human. I do make errors of judgment, and I'm happy to be criticized when I make an error of judgment. But when it's hard, it's disheartening when someone is making the correct decisions and media or whatever is portraying the incorrect information. I mean, I always joke and say to drive an airplane, you need an airplane license. You need to drive a forklift, you need a forklift license. To drive a car, you need a license. And I'm really of the belief that even players themselves at professional level should at least get some sort of laws of the game skill, and even commentators and journalists the same. Because
mm.
once we're all on the same level, we understand football better, and we can give a better product at the end of the day. Because ultimately, we are all servants of football, and we are serving the general public.
Um, well, I mean, you're spot on there, as always. Looking at that, and I mean, it's. No, I think we've got a long way to go in terms of sport and the growth and development of sport in order to get to that level that you want. Because I'm glad you bring it up because the kid watching at home doesn't necessarily know the laws. However, if the commentator gives him a description of a law, he's going to go try it this weekend on the pitch. And if the ref doesn't call him up for it, he's going to say, "But the commentator said so." And those are the type
Exactly.
of people that they look up to.
Exactly. So that is why it's important that what we read in the articles, what we see, and what we hear in commentary, etc., it plays a very important role. I often get, and I must take my hats off to many commentators in our local leagues in South Africa. They often ask me a message, "Hey, Gomes, can you explain to me what does this mean?" And that's good. That's what we need. We need that engagement where we can ultimately provide a better image of football.
No, definitely. Talking about an image of football, I mean, FIFA Under 17 World Cup, Tokyo Olympics. Victor Gomes, what is it that you haven't done as yet? Have you got a Champions League lined up for you next?
Yeah, I've been working for that. So that's the one that's missing under my belt. I had a very close call this year, but when a team from your country goes into the final of Champions League, you got no chance of refereeing it. So we keep fighting.
No, definitely. I mean, especially if you can't have a referee, you can't have a coach, you can't have everybody in the final. Just makes life difficult.
Exactly.
But looking at your Olympics, what were some of your highlights? Going to the Olympic Games. I mean, the Olympic bubble. It was completely out of this world. Something that's never been seen before. What was your experience like at the Olympics? Looks like we just had a break in transmission there. We will have Victor back in just a second to hear about more, but about his experience at the Olympics.
Yeah, there. Yeah, sorry. So I lost you a little bit there. The thunder is quite heavy here in the south of Johannesburg. But I got your question basically regarding the Olympics and under 17 World Cup. Yeah, as a little boy, I always imagined and dreamed of going to these top events, and I've been really blessed. And I've had the opportunity to represent my family, my country, my association, my confederation, and it's really, there's no words to describe the feeling of walking in the tunnel and just walking out and hearing the anthems and saying, "Wow, I'm actually here." And that's when then you realize that, hey, this is all the hard work that you've been putting in. That's the reward, and it's time now to focus, because
Mm.
it's all good and well that you get to these events. You also need to produce. It's no good saying, hey, you got a final and you didn't have a good final. So it's important that you then, it's difficult to get to the top, and it's even more difficult to stay at the top. I guess that sums it up.
Well, I mean, you can talk from experience. A man is still on the top and still doing the things for South African football. Victor, I mean, coming back home, taking it back home, if you look at the quality of our football being played in the league here, and then you get to officiate out in the continent and even overseas sometimes, what is the comparison for you with our local football and international football? How close do you think we are to getting back to playing AFCONs and getting back on the world stage?
Yeah, that's a very difficult question, because there's so many aspects to that question, and so many aspects to that question.
Another break in
Can
transmission
you
there.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Sorry, the signal is just really, really bad out here in Johannesburg this evening. We apologize to our viewers and our listeners.
Yeah, sorry, man. It's all this lighting. So I was saying there's so many aspects to that question. So it's very difficult to pinpoint. But what I can tell you is that it is with the local football that has enhanced my refereeing skill, and it's given me the tools that I need to officiate at higher level, because our football is very competitive.
Mm,
It's ranked one of the best in Africa. So it's helped me obviously to obtain the levels that I obtained, because the practice is locally. I'm refereeing every week in our local league, so obviously it's a big boost. So it does mean that we are among there. Maybe we can improve on other aspects, but there's always room for an improvement. And the day you think that you don't need to improve, that's the day you should actually retire, because then you're really behind.
spot on, spot on. Victor, looking at it, and as a referee, um, you've now, let's say, made it to the top, and you've opened the path for many other younger referees that are wanting to come through the system. Um, what are some of the words of advice that you'd have to them for them um, in terms of officiating and grinding through the hard yards and putting in the hours in order for them to be a top PSL referee booked every weekend and also going on to CAF and who knows the rest of the world?
Look, refereeing is not for everybody. Refereeing is not a job. It's a passion, and it's a lifelong commitment. Um, you are often away. You are often away from your family. You often away for months when you go on tournaments. I know that I'm often 2 months away in a year, because I know possibly two tournaments. And then it's weekends away when you do local games. So it's a lot of commitment. I also am a business owner, and you need the correct support system. If you don't have the correct support system, you will crumble. Time away is critical, and you need to be very diligent. I stay in a complex, and sometimes when I work late, I get home and I'm training at 11 o'clock at night. So there's a lot of dedication that's required, a lot of hard work. But you know what? If it's your passion, it can be done, and anyone can do it. I'm a little boy from the south that came here in the south of Johannesburg, and it was always my wish, and I just persisted. And I encourage every young person to do it. And I think it's our minds that stop us from doing it, whether it be a player, whether it be a referee, whether it be anything in life. You can achieve it. You just need to set your mind to it, and you need to commit to it. I mean, it's not an 8 to 5 job, so you really need to work at it.
Well, there's the words from the best himself, the best in the business. Victor, about that, you said you're just a boy from the south. How did your journey in refereeing come about?
Yeah, I started playing football at the age of 12 years old. I used to play for a local team here in the south of Johannesburg, in Turfentine, called Union. It's a Portuguese club. And I used to play, and I played till the age of about 14. I think we won two league titles there. We won a cup once. And I was a right defender. But already then I could feel I was terrible as a player. But I used to beg my coach to let me ref, and I used to ref most of the games already during training. And then from there, one day I went to see a tournament at Lynn Hill, and I saw all these big referees, big in the sense size wise and age wise. And I said to them, "No, I just did my level one
Mm,
exam. I'm ready to ref." And I'll never forget the gentleman called Americo. he said to me, he gave me his shirt and that thing, I was drowning it, and I ref my first game there. And from there, the rest was history. We just climbed the ladder.
Did you give out as many red cards in your first game as you did throughout your career?
You know, the the honest truth is, I always aim to be consistent, and I always struggled. Jerome always mentored me, and the one thing he always taught me was to look for grey. And for me at that time, I only saw black and white. There was no grey for me, so it was either red or nothing. So I struggled finding the grey part. But honestly speaking, jokes aside, um, I always say that I aim to be consistent. And a red
Mm,
card is a red card if it's in the first minute. But there's also something called the spirit of the game. And the spirit of the game is, the only way I can explain this is, as I said previously, is if a top player like Cristiano Ronaldo or whoever scores a winning goal in the last minute of a World Cup and he's already got a yellow card, and what he does, he removes his jersey and he goes and he places it on a child that's possibly sitting on a wheelchair in the stadium, or something like that. And really, you know that the law says when he removes his jersey, he needs to get a yellow card, and that would mean that he would get a red card. And I say to myself, is there any football loving fan that would accept such a player getting a red card in the last minute of a World Cup final? No. It's in the spirit of the laws of the game. So people need to understand that it's not bending the laws, it's respecting the laws, but we are also talking about spirit.
mm. Facts. You went quite deep on us for a second there, Victor. Well, before we wrap this one up, I mean, you've got AFCON under your belt for the year. PSL's well under the way. What do you have planned for yourself for 2022, and where can we be looking out for you?
So yeah, I'm excited to. I'll announce you've been getting some privileged information today. I'm happy to share with you some information. I was supposed to be refereeing in Saudi Arabia this weekend, but due to Omicron, South Africans are blocked from going there. I have another big final coming up in next month. I cannot release that information yet because it needs to be published yet. But I have a final coming up in another country, and today I can confirm that I will be going to referee a inaugural match in Madeira, Portugal. It is where my parents come from, a little island
Wow.
of Madeira. I will go. I've been invited to go referee an inaugural match there. It's a friendly match, but I've been invited to go referee. I think it's towards the end of June. The dates are still to be confirmed. And then above all of that, we've got lots of hard work. We need to improve, and we need some to sit down at the drawing board and improve from where we left off at AFCON.
Well, definitely. There you've heard it. Victor, we're supposed to wrap this up, but you've taken me now to this level. What does it mean for you to referee a match in Portugal from your descent? Now, when your parents come from Portugal, it is their hometown, and you've still got a strong bond with your home country. What does it mean for you to go referee there?
You know, I can only say to you that even as you just asked that question, I'm full of goosebumps. And you know what? I'm really grateful to God that I've been given this opportunity, and I'm sincerely blessed. And I'm humbled with all of this. I'm really
Mm.
humbled. And most importantly, I don't want to let my family down. I don't want to let my association down. And I don't want to let my countrymen down.
Victor, it's been a pleasure. We could chat all night, but I thank you so much for your time this evening. I know being in the sport industry, you need to rush off and go spend time with your family because you don't really get much time to do that. I appreciate it. I wish you all the best for the rest of the year. And I mean, for the future, we look forward to seeing you flying the South African flag high and being so morally inclined and showing people that there is still good people out there, even though they give a lot of records. But yeah, there is still good people out there. Victor, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Hope you have a great evening further.
So all I can say is shukran, Habibi. Thank you.
Afwan, it was a pleasure having Victor Gomes on the show, chatting to us a bit about his career, what it's like to be a referee at the highest level, the AFCON final, his interactions with Mo Salah. He spoke a lot about morals and doing the best, being the best version of himself. That interview was a special one, and I hope if you missed it, I hope that you rewind and go tune into it because it's going to be there for a while. Definitely a highlight for many people at the Salam Media team here. Um, they've been going crazy about it all week. But yeah, that's it from our football segment for this evening. Next up, we're going to be chatting all things cricket with Suleiman Moden. He's going to tell us what is going down um, in New Zealand He's also going to be giving us a bit of a breakdown on what's happening in the local CSA T20. So stay tuned to Salam Media. After the break, we're going to be chatting to Suleiman